Hi there. Welcome to Cafe J. My name is Fatini, and I'll be taking care of you this evening. Can I get you something to drink? Water. Okay, awesome. Let me get you some water. Oh, no. I am not laughing at your choice to have water. I know other servers think when customers order water, they're just trying to keep their tab low, and they think that means that it's going to be a lower tip, but no, for me, water really is wonderful. You see, back in the day, I actually had a guy ask me for water, and it totally changed my life forever. You knew that? Okay, well, I guess my reputation has preceded me yet again. Oh, you're actually here to hear my water story. Okay, well, actually, right now, you're the only person in my section, so I have a few minutes. Let me just pull up a chair, and I will share my water story with you. Well, it all started when I had just come through and was still in the middle of what felt like a tragedy that was my life, a cursed life. It truly felt cursed. I was happy to marry a strong and good man that my parents had chosen for me, and I was excited about our future. I could envision the cute little house and a couple of kids and maybe some goats and chickens, and everything seemed to be going well in those early days of marriage. But then my husband got called to fight in the war by the Romans. And it's crazy in a moment how your life can seem to spin out of control. Widowed by my first anniversary. The pain was unbearable. But I was young, and so with time, I began to feel a glimmer of hope as I began to develop a relationship with another wonderful man. And both of our families had known each other, and so both of our parents approved fairly quickly, actually. And it wasn't long before we were married, and I felt like my life, was back on track. I began to breathe easily. Even with a famine in the land, I was hopeful about our future together. Well, he was offered a position by the Syrophoenicians at sea. We really needed the money, so he took the job. Food was sparse. We needed it. It wasn't long before that blessing seemed to turn to a curse, and I found out that my husband's ship had been lost at sea. There are no words to describe the utter pain and despair I felt to be going through this a second time, such a young age. I mean, seriously, who loses two husbands when they're so young? My world was great. Oh, no, almost forgot. I wondered who would want to marry a woman who'd been married 2 times before. His sweet family took me in, and we grieved together. But the good old Jewish law, well, it took care of that for me. And my second husband's brother was the lucky guy who got to win this prize. Don't get me wrong, he was an honorable man, and I'm grateful that he was willing to take me in. But turns out we didn't have enough to survive that famine, and he died of malnutrition. My world was gray. I was numb, hope gone, and I definitely was done with marriage. Until I met another charismatic, passionate man. I definitely wasn't out looking for love, but it was so refreshing when I stumbled upon it. Even though he knew my past, he wanted me. So I was nervous, but I decided to try a 4th time and married my 4th husband. And I wondered, will this finally be my happy ever after? No. We did have a couple of beautiful kids together, and that was lovely. But he got really involved in politics, and when the uprising with Thaddeus came along, he joined the ranks, and he was killed in the first revolt. That same infectious passion that wooed me towards him ended up getting him killed and leaving the three of us behind. And if that wasn't enough, he too had a brother that was willing to marry me. Enter husband number 5. He was an older man, so I think it was mainly because of the kids. So we were only legally married, so we never made it official, if you know what I mean. But guess what? Yep, within 2 years, he died in his sleep. You know what happens when you've lost a couple, much less 5 husbands? People think you're cursed. They don't make eye contact with you. They turn and go the other way when they see you coming. They say terrible, terrible things about you. They don't let their kids play with your kids. And after you've been crushed so many times, you believe it. I am cursed. There is something wrong with me. A deep sadness defined me at that point. I avoided going places where I'd have to interact with people. I just didn't have it in me anymore. I'd go to the market right before it closed. I would go get water in the heat of the day from the well so that I wouldn't have to hear the hateful comments of the other women and see their stares. It was right around that time I met another man who was as lonely as me, if that's even possible. And he wanted to marry me. Well, I wasn't dumb enough to make that mistake again. So I told him we could still live together. I mean, what was it going to do? Ruin my reputation? No. So, and it was right around that time that I also got this gig here at Cafe J. So I know I am talking your ear off. This story is supposed to be about water, and it is. I know there's just so many details. So back to water. Let me pour myself a drink. Well, like I said, I would go fetch water for the restaurant in the middle of the day to avoid people. And one day, when I got there was a Jew at the well. Yeah, a Jew! Exactly, here. And so as soon as I walked up, he said, "May I have some water?" I was shocked. He knew I was a Samaritan. And so I said, "Sir, why are you, a Jew, asking me, a Samaritan woman, for a drink?" I'd never known a Jew who would be caught dead talking to a Samaritan. And he kindly answered, "If you knew the generosity of God and who I am, you'd ask me for a drink, and I'd give you living water." Whoa, what? First of all, I could not believe that this man was talking to me, this Jew. And secondly, what in the world was he talking about? He didn't even have a bucket. How was he going to get water, and much less offer it to me? So I may have been a little snarky, and I said, "Sir, how are you going to get water when you don't even have a bucket? How are you going to get this water?" And he smiled, and he said, "Anyone who drinks this water will be thirsty again soon. But anyone who drinks the water I give, living springs will bubble up within them, and they'll have eternal life." I was blown away by this response. I mean, and also his kindness and his gentleness. I know it sounded crazy, but if this was true, I would never have to go to that terrible gossip watering hole again. I would never have to face those hateful housewives anymore. So suddenly my heart started pounding, and I knew I wanted this living water. And so I said, "Sir, give me this water. I need this water." And he said something that instantly made me go flushed. He said, "Go call your husband, then come back." Oh, husband, your husband, the word husband, it stung and it cut so deep. I lowered my eyes to avoid the weight of saying, "Sir, I have no husband." His gaze was fixed on me, but his eyes, they were loving and compassionate. They weren't harsh and judgmental the way that I was used to and how I expected. And he said, "That's nicely put. I have no husband. You've actually had 5 husbands, and the man you're living with now isn't even your husband. You told the truth there, sure enough." My head was spinning. How did he know that? And knowing that, why was he still talking to me and showing kindness to me? And I knew, even though my past was exposed, my shame was out there, somehow I was safe with him knowing. He overlooked my mess, and he saw me. And so after I took a second to gather myself, I realized how he must know. And I said, "Oh, sir, I see that you're a prophet." And that prompted me to ask him some questions about faith and why we worship. His answers, they were so authoritative and confident. I knew that there was something very special and different about this man. And then he said it. He looked me straight in the eye and he said, "I am the Messiah." My whole life, I had been taught to wait and watch for the Messiah, and of course, to be very cautious. But the way that this man spoke and the burning in my chest, his compassion, his gentleness, his knowledge, his honesty, all of it, it told me I knew this really was him. This really was the Messiah. And he had asked me for a drink of water. Oh, life instantly sprung back into my bones. Hope miraculously filled my heart. And for the first time in years, I felt joy. I was so giddy and I was overcome with emotion. And then I realized it. This is that spring of living water bubbling up that he was talking about. Oh, I could not wait to share the news. So I said, "Excuse me, sir." And I ran back, my happy self, back to Cafe J. I flung open the door and I told everyone, "Come meet the man who told me everything I've ever done." Now, with my past, that definitely created a little curiosity. So off they went. And you know what? Many of them experienced their own living water story. And so that is my water story. That's why now, when I serve water at Cafe J, I'm not just serving water. I'm not just serving H2O. I'm serving that living water that sweet man, Jesus, shared with me. My story, it never feels old. And I'm so glad to tell it every time someone asks. So thank you for asking. And I just realized that I never brought you a menu. And I see that there are some more people seated in my section. So let me go get you a menu, and hopefully I have a chance to share some more living water. I'll be right back.